Hey, Ryan, Dinse here. I just thought I would send out a video today because obviously overnight there was some fairly dramatic moves coming out of Russia and the Ukraine. And when I put out the weekly update, usually I write these things, the night before and then send them out in the morning. Um, and then by the time it goes through our, editing and compliance and all that, it comes out in the afternoon. And sometimes because crypto markets move so fast, it can even be out of date, um, even by the time you get them later that afternoon. And I think with what happened yesterday, that might have been the case with the weekly update, even though I would stand by pretty much everything I said in that weekly update. However, I probably wouldn't have started with a knock knock joke if I knew that Russia were going to imminently invade Ukraine the way they did. So yeah, I wasn't trying to be insensitive with that, and hopefully, the situation in Ukraine can resolve itself as peacefully as possible. Although it looks very uncertain at the moment. However, the fact of life is that markets, whether it's crypto markets or stock markets, are fairly amoral in the fact that they don't care about what should happen. They just look at what is happening and in where it is best to put your money if that happens. And crypto markets are the same. But I thought it might be a good idea just to show you what happened with the Bitcoin price yesterday because it was a fairly important moment. I was watching things live as they played out. And at the start, if we look at the chart in front here, we can see this green candlestick here fell pretty dramatically. And at one stage, we got down to the low 34,000, and that's when the news was coming out that Russia was starting to move in. Bombs were heard even in Kiev, and the Bitcoin price was falling quite dramatically. And at the same time, gold was rising fairly strongly. And I looked at a lot of commentators on Twitter saying, oh look, see, gold's a safe haven, and digital gold is nothing more than a speculative asset. And then, as typically happens, 8 or 9 hours later, that position reversed. Gold fell pretty sharply, and Bitcoin, as you can see, has bounced up very strongly. As I'm recording this, it's at $38,400. Look, I think it's important never to correlate anything on one day's action, but I think what is fairly clear from looking at that action, the panic was fairly severe as it was falling. There was a lot of panic. I could feel it in the sentiment to the people I follow on Twitter. You could see it in other metrics, and yet a lot of strong buying support came in at that $35,000 level. And if you look at this little bar here, that's the volume. You can see how large that volume of buying that came in was. It was probably as high as this time here, and that was on a strong down move. Whereas this buying came in on a down move that then turned into a sharp reversal. Um, so that is a fairly you know big clue that there are still a lot of big buyers willing to come in, but they're not going to rush. They're going to try and buy in moments of panic. And that's why I was saying in yesterday's update, it's important not to panic. You can try and time bottoms, and you can try and have money available in case other people do panic. That can happen. We can't do anything about how other people react to situations, and that was the idea of having a panic pot available. But at the same time, um, it's important not to panic yourself. It's important to follow your long-term plan in crypto. And as you can see here, if you panicked at 34,000 today, you would be a lot worse off. Now, just to point out another few things I'm seeing on this chart, we're at a fairly pivotal point in terms of this long-term trend line. We did dip below that. I did think that when we retook that point here with that strong candlestick, I thought that could have been the start of a new uptrend, but obviously that reversed course. But it looks like we're trying to break through that again. The next crucial downtrend line to break would be, get somewhere above this trend line here, at 42,000, and if we ever get above, 45,000, that would indicate a strong reversal. If we take away the actual price candlesticks and just show some moving averages, you can see that this yellow moving average here, which is the very short term one, has turned down, but it is trying to fight back up. Generally, what happens is when this one and this blue at moving average get back above the purple and orange, that is the start of a new uptrend. And you can see, you can probably see that here, that once the yellow and blue got above that purple, they dipped below a few times. That resulted in a fairly decent uptrend. Anyway, Another sign that I'm looking at down here is this RSI indicator. Again, that break of the RSI over the 50 line I thought was a positive move, but the rapid decline back down ended up being a negative move. Um, but you can see there's a little divergence here where this point here, the RSI was a lot more panicky than this point here, and that can be a bullish divergence in technical terms. And if we see this RSI continue this uptrend line and retake this 50 level at some point in the future, which might correspond with this downtrend break, then we could get a decent break higher. The third metric I look at is a gauge of momentum. And again, this is looking a lot stronger than it was, back here when we were significantly negative. We're now close to the zero line, although it might still take a week or two to get back above the zero line. So that's all the positive signs I'm looking at the moment, and I thought it's important I explain to you what I'm seeing. Does seem to be a lot of buying support coming in at 35. Now that there's no guarantees that will hold, but we do have strong supports at 30,000 as well, if it did go further south. But if we can get that buying coming in, which, as I said in the weekly update, fundamentally, when you have so much global uncertainty, Bitcoin is tailor made for that type of environment. A scarce asset that's ultimately portable, whether you're a Ukrainian fleeing Ukraine, whether you're a Russian business worried about having the financial system cut off to you. In previous weeks, we talked about, things happening in Canada as well, where citizens were getting cut off the financial system. There seems to be a lot of uncertainty in how various governments are reacting these days, and Bitcoin is the ultimate asset to deal with that uncertainty. Whether or not the market fully realizes it yet, I think they will start to realize it. And I think we already have some fairly deep pocketed buyers looking to suck up any cheap Bitcoin they can on moments of panic. But the important thing for us to realize is that they were there yesterday when, if they weren't there, that panic could have seen a free fall down to 30,000. And even if there was a severe panic below 30,000, it seems that the buyers were there to soak up the panic sellers. And that is generally a good sign. And I just wanted to point that out to you. Another chart that I've been looking at, which I'm not going to show you now, is that Bitcoin dominance chart, which I've talked about a while. And pretty much what we're seeing on that right now is that Bitcoin's dominance is fairly level. It's not changing much, which is why we've stayed in our altcoin positions for now. With your altcoin flip trades, although some of them are getting hit pretty hard right now, the flip side to that is if Bitcoin does surge back above 42, 45,000, those altcoins will rebound fairly rapidly too, because a lot of them are just getting unfairly caught up in the broader macro environment, and the declines in Bitcoin are having an effect. But the flip side to that is that when that changes, when Bitcoin rises, they could make 30, 40, 50% gains fairly rapidly. And so I'm keeping an eye on that Bitcoin dominance index to see if there's a chance of that happening. If Bitcoin does start to rise against that, then we might flip back into Bitcoin. But for now, I want to leave things as are and just keeping an eye on the fundamentals behind each project we've got in our current flip trade result. And as that stands, I'm very positive on all of those projects. For instance, Aave recently announced that they're going to onboard more traditional finance partners to utilize their platform, and that could really drive usage of their decentralized borrowing and lending platform. So behind the scenes, a lot of good things happening, but I just wanted to get this note out to you today just to show you what I was looking at in terms of price action. And I hope that helps you with your own decisions. All right. Thanks.